Today we're going to take a look at a relatively brand new filter on the market in the very popular Fluval FX series. This bad boy, the FX2. Hello everyone, this is Bentley, and today I had a new toy. We're going to unbox this bad boy, but first, oh man, it's so nice. Hit my camera a little bit, but it's so much lighter. So let's get the disclaimers out of the way first. This is a sponsored video. In the sense that Fluval has sent me this FX2 along with their new spray bar attachment. So for the FX series, you can actually put a out-of-the-box, easy-peasy spray bar on them now instead of the standard outlet. Sent along a box of BioFX to fill this up. That's the important part, right? They've sent me all this stuff to review, to test, to talk about. They're not paying me, but I am getting this product. So just keep that in mind. We have to go through those disclosures, right? It's very, very important that I am being allowed to keep all these products, but Fluval doesn't get to see this video ahead of time or any of the videos I make featuring the FX2. And they have basically sent it to me and said, go nuts. So with that, thank you, Fluval, and let's start unboxing this bad boy, shall we? I first want to start with the spray bar kit here. It's real simple. You can tell this is relatively new because it actually includes the FX2 down here in the labeling. A lot of people would say, hey, if you really want a spray bar, just be really good with PVC. I'm not. You guys, though, I'm technical, but I'm not handy. So, building one of these myself, not really my forte. Some of the rubber gasketing stuff has got this actually pretty nicely sealed in there. Wow, man, they give you a lot. Okay, so you've got 3 sections, which each of these are fairly long. If we were to look at this on a 40 breeder, I mean, 2 of these is going to cover an entire 40 breeder, and you might not actually be able to easily fit 2 in, depending on the connectors. And this will be kind of an initial impression video, so just keep that in mind, right? We're really familiar with a lot of Fluval products. So you got like a rubber cap, it's going to go on the end. Plenty of suction cups. There's our joiner bit. Nice, solid, thick piece of black rubber. So if you have a black back tank, this is going to hide in real nice. Kind of like Fallen Forest here. It could do a great job. Clips to help clip it in place with all those suction cups. And then finally you've got this U connector so that your tubing, when it comes up over the loop, right, it hooks in here. Then you've got this angle pipe so that you can angle it in multiple directions. This is a nice, again, that same thick rubber. I kind of like the fact that this is a flexible rubber and not a hard piece because it, one, it's going to form a nice seal here, which this actually, now that it's on, good seal. And then you can put your tubing in any direction you want. So if you wanted your tubing more straight out, maybe you're coming in a line, you're doing like a river system, so you're coming this way. Tubing from the back like that, right? So if this is the back of your tank, this is the front of your tank. Set up like that, you get nice flow across the length of your tank. Or again, twist it this way and go front to back with your flow. Attach it up. This is a pretty simple kit. It doesn't really need a huge ton of review. It's just nice that they've designed a product that is just built to fit. You don't have to build something yourself. So if you're not handy like me, there's an off-the-shelf option. Now, let's break into the real thing. Let's break open this FX2. So now that we've got this bad boy out of the box, except for the cable being stuck. Now, instead of a major instruction manual, which they do have one, there's actually instructions in the top of the box itself. But here's the FX2. It's kind of neat that they wrapped their tubing. And I know a lot of people don't like this tubing. We'll get to that in a minute. But it's kind of neat that they wrapped around this. But just look at the size of this in comparison, right? Think about an FX6 or an FX4. That's the big part about this FX2. And if we turn this thing around, you can see, I think if you're familiar with the FX2 and FX4, you can see how much smaller this unit is. And that's the big reason why they designed this. This is designed to be easier to fit into your cabinetry or in any of your spaces. It's one of the big pieces of feedback that Fluval apparently gets pretty regularly is their FX4s and FX6, while they're nice filters, unless you have a very large cabinet, say like the Guppy Mansion over there, or my retirement tank, it's really hard to fit those big buckets, and it's kind of what they are. It's a giant bucket in there nicely and neatly. That's why they designed this guy. It's a smaller version. Now, like the FX4, this contains 2 trays of media in it. 2 trays of sponge and media. Let's be specific here. So the FX6 is 3 trays, FX4 is 2, FX2 is also 2. Similar lid design that we're used to, right, where we've got the main tube here, clasps, all that good stuff. A warning right off the top. One of the things that I do like about any of your Fluval filtration is it comes packed with lots of good stuff. You've got the same kind of plastic handle design here to help you retrieve the 2 trays out of the kit. Man, I can tell just from... I might have to go get one of my FX4 ones so we can compare size, but I can feel the difference in size of these things. And I'm just so used to like my FX6s, which I have 4? I've got a few FX6s. We put these up here. So you start in the top, you've got these nice partial trays that are removable that have your more fine filtration. And then on the outside of each tray, of course, you have your coarse sponge filtration in these rings. And then they do provide this base media with it. It's not a ton, and it's nowhere near as nice as the Fluval FX media. So we're going to kind of turbocharge this thing by adding the FX biomedia in instead of the standard media that comes with. Not that this is bad media, it's just not as nice. So this is a more basic ceramic ring where these are much higher porosity, and they're designed for higher bioloads and all that kind of stuff. So again, in the bottom tray, similar to the top tray, the little half tray. And then, balance this over here for a half sec. You've got another superfine pad down here for your final bit of filtration, because what happens is you've got the water comes up through the outside, then down through the center, and out the canister. Okay? It also comes with this nice little filter bag. It does have this style of lock, if you guys have seen this before. There's 2 of them in here. But this is a really nice, very fine, like cheesecloth type material. It's probably like a nylon or something. But if you want something super fine to keep particulates out of your media, these are good bags to start with. I don't necessarily care. I personally prefer a more coarse mesh bag that's a little more open, because it makes it so that when I do go to rinse my media, I can make sure that any detritus that does get in there gets out. But with something this fine, particulates really shouldn't build up in your media. So if you choose to use this, you're going to be okay. But you're going to see when we actually load this thing up, I use different bags that I just buy on Amazon. So in that regard, if I had some feedback initially, it'd be Fluval. Maybe consider more coarse bags. But these trays, if you're using bigger media, if you look at this, just with the grading here, right? But it's fairly open. So some of your smaller medias, if you were to use a different, more alternative media, like if you wanted to use, say, the Eheim Substrat Pro, the little small ceramic balls, they can get stuck and or go through here. So make sure that you're using media bags if you have very small media. If you have larger bio rings and things like that, you don't necessarily have to use bags, but I would, because it makes maintenance a lot easier. And that's just a general tip for basically any canister, is put your media in some bags. You can do it in hang-on bags too. It just makes your life a lot easier when it comes to maintenance. So we have 2 trays, lots of foam built in, nice coarse foam. We've got this good, not as coarse, but still kind of medium. So this is like coarse, medium, and then very fine foam built in to help filter out your particulates and help do that water polishing for you. If you wanted to go to an even higher level, You could put different foam into this, but it's probably not necessary. With the amount of foam they're providing, just similar to an FX6, usually you're going to get really, really good particulate filtration. And because this outside rim is so coarse, and the coarse media in here too, you don't really have to deal with servicing it super often. That's one of the big benefits of any of the FX series. So once we have these out, we get back to our good friend empty bucket. Right, so we know this a lot smaller than the FX4, a little bit of echo, but we've got a good strong, so this is kind of a newer pump on the FX2. It's a pump specifically for the FX2. Now keep in mind that most of the time when we rate these pumps, and I don't know for certain how this one particular got rated, but most of the time when they rate these pumps, it's completely empty. There's no media, no sponges, no nothing. So there's no restriction on the water flow. So despite the fact that it's advertised as 475, don't assume that it's moving that much water. You could probably assume something less. This is designed to handle, it says 175 gallons. But what I would say is this is probably built, especially given some of the information that Fluval gave me, where the design concept of making a smaller FX4. This is probably something that you want to use on things like your 40 breeders, your 75 gallon, and especially if you have kind of a nice set of cabinetry or something like that, this more display oriented tank. This is going to help hide that equipment and fit inside some of those things. And that's where I'm actually going to have an important piece of you guys helping me. But before we get to that, you also have a lovely box of equipment that comes with for this bad boy. So other than the tubing that's wrapped around, which I kind of like the fact that they wrapped it around like that, it makes the packaging nice and clean. And if you'll remember when we opened that F zone last week, we had this big crimp in the top of the tubing. Now, yeah, you can slowly get that out. It's not a permanent problem. But when it's wrapped around in a big circle like this, you don't have that problem. You're not going to get a kink in your tubing right away. Now, granted, the kind of ribbed tubing that Fluval likes to use doesn't really do that, and there are a lot of people who don't like this tubing. You can replace it. It's fine. If you don't like that tubing, go get vinyl tubing and just measure. For any of the FX series filters, you have these nice, lovely stops. These are your shutoff valves, right? I love these things. I love the design of the shutoff valve that the Fluval has. Little push button here if you need to remove the entire thing, like when you're going to service your canister, as opposed to just shutting it off for a quick water change or something. These are stiff to start. There's water. It's been water tested. There we go. Sometimes the first time you move these things, they can be a little tricky, a little sticky. So don't freak out if you're just slow and easy. You break them loose, and then from there on they're fine. Because when they're brand new and fresh, they kind of seal themselves. You can see just a little work there just to get this one loose, and you're good to go. So you have those two. You have two of these, which is the little nice kind of unit that they use to go over the top of your rim. It has this little holder here to kind of click it in place, and then your tubing just goes right over the top, gets snapped in place, keeps it nice and tight. I actually really like these, and anytime a filter includes something like this, especially if I have a black background so it hides this, it's just a nice kind of quality of life thing because it keeps your tubing nicely aligned. Is it necessary? No, but it's a nice to have thing. And then probably the signature of most FX filters, this chonky boy intake. I kind of wish Fluval would make different version of this for those of us who like to hot rod our filters and use sponge intakes and things like that. Granted, there's a ton of sponge media inside even this smaller version in this FX2, but otherwise you've got this kind of big case. Now what you could do, one thing that is nice about this is, this does come apart, so you could build yourself a small square of sponge that you could fit into this, just by cutting something apart and make your own intake that way. Some people just don't like these intakes because of their size. I mean, this is it's a chunky boy, and if you're trying to do a nicer aquascape, you might not want chunky boy showing off in your equipment. But realistically, if you're going for a pretty tank, but you really like these style of filters, you figured out how to hide these things. I hide mine behind rocks. And then finally, you've got two nice steel crimp downs for your tubing to crimp them in place where they need to be, and then the suction cups that go along with the rest of your equipment to help keep the tubing in place. So that's all the stuff that comes pre-boxed, and then we have our big boy there. I want to talk for a minute about the last piece of information I have here. Let us say that you don't like Fluval's ribbed tubing. There are a lot of people who do not like this stuff. And that's okay, right? You don't have to love this stuff. They do give you this one long piece of tube, which the intent is that you're going to measure and cut this in half. You have these nice rubber bits on each end of the tube to connect into your stop valves on the top. And then from there, the expectation is, because they've got the rubber grommet here, that you'll attach the cut end of the tube in here. One of my only criticisms about this filter in particular is give folks two tubes. You can do it. You do it with like the FX6, just do it with all of them. Forgot this in the box. There is a small change to the outflow unit. Very similar. You'll notice it just has these much tighter nozzles. So on an FX6, they're big and open, right? I kind of like the fact that on the smaller filter, they have these tighter jets that are going to create a little bit more oomph in the flow. Now, granted, this isn't pushing a ton of water, so it's not like instant river, but if you don't like this, that's why you would go with the spray bar kit to get something a little more dispersed, a little more gentle. But this will give you some nice flow, and it's two-directional, and you can sit here and adjust these heads, just move them. They're nicely frictioned in place. One of the biggest things with Fluval in general is their warranty. And they even have this card that gives you a free extended warranty. So instead of a 3-year warranty on this product, you get 5. No one else in the business does that. Just plain and simple. It's the one thing that I can say, in my experience with all the Fluval products, is they have a good warranty, and it's a lot longer than a majority of the other products out there. Most products have like 1 year. That's pretty common. But 5 or even 3 years, that's something that's kind of unique to Fluval, and I really appreciate it. So, here's the part where I need your help. I need you guys to decide where the FX2 is going. Should we take FX2 Fancy Boy here and put it on the Running River tank, where my Running River Rainbows are and my Corridor Equus are? There's a AquaClear 110 currently as the filtration on this tank. And I used to, at one point when this was the Plants for Profit tank, also have a Fluval 406 running on it. I did a lot of filtration in this thing to get a lot of water movement. Or, your option is, there's another tank right over that way that I'm going to be kind of redoing from the ground up. Says I want another tank to hold a bunch of rainbows, or whatever the heck I decide to put in there. Would you rather see the FX2 on a new tank or on Running River? Running River's been going for a while. It's quite proud of it. It has some very happy rainbows in there. They would probably appreciate the flow that we would get out of this filter, but that's up to you. So let me know in the comments down below. Running River, new tank. You guys get to decide where the FX2 goes. I'll be cleaning out media, and the next time that we do a video on this thing, we'll be setting it up and putting it on whichever tank it goes on. So let me know in the comments. I want to know which tank you'd prefer to see it on. Just in case, I'll put a community tab poll up too, just so we can gather some votes there for folks that might, for some reason, miss this part. But I'll put a link in the description, all that kind of stuff. If you're interested in the FX2, It's available now. You can get it out on Amazon and all your usual places. I'm sure most of your local stores will start carrying it if they carry the other FX filters. Your Petscos, your PetSmarts. If you know the PetSmart trick to get a super good deal, you can actually probably get this thing for a really screaming good price. Speaking of price, so I checked real fast. It's not super widely online yet, but folks have had these things in hand since about November. I did find one place that had it for sale at $290, which I feel like once that's more widely available on Amazon, that'll probably go down in price a little bit, because that's very close to the price of like an FX4 and an FX6. I don't know how close they plan on hitting the pricing there, and I don't think they gave me an MSRP on this thing, so there's that. But you can find this. It is available online. Some places might just be limited in stock just because it is relatively new, so stock might be a little limited. But if I really want to know down below, like I said, shall we put this on running river or new tank over that way? It'd be 40 gallons regardless. It'd be a 40-gallon breeder. So that, I mean, you guys are pretty used to me using 40-gallon breeders at this point. There's 2 over there. Actually, there's 3 over there. There's 2 here. There's going to be another one down here. I got them everywhere. I got a problem, man. I love 40 breeders. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, this little unboxing and look at the relatively brand new FX2, the smaller, more petite FX4. It's the FX4 in a little diet. It's a little trimmed down, right? Let me know in the comments down below. Give it a thumbs up, all those usual things. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and stay awesome.